Well, also joining me to discuss this issue is global affairs analyst Kunle Falowo. He joins us via Skype from Indianapolis for more on this. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. Well, President Trump has agreed to for an orderly transfer of power, but then he's yet to concede. Based on what played out on Wednesday, what are your perception of the countdown to 20th of January when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris should take over?
Well, thanks for having me again. This is America, and things happen. This is one of the strongest democratic governing country in the world, and yes, indeed, we saw everybody, the entire world saw what happened on Wednesday, which was amazingly insane, for the lack of a better word. But by and large, the mechanics of democracy was into play eventually because Vice President Mike Pence stood up and didn't dance to the tune of President Trump. We heard previously at the rally right there at the White House, President Trump had incited the people, the mob, we would call them, to go in there and forcefully take over the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And also, he had pleaded with Vice President Pence to do unconstitutionally what it wasn't possible, but said the mechanics of the democratic dispensation took its force. He was there, despite the fact that he was the president, the vice president, ratified the electoral college votes of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And yes, eventually we will have a peaceful transfer of power and the inauguration come January 20th.
A whole lot of people actually have commended Vice President Pence for that action because it was a test of his loyalty to his principal, Trump. Well, the president's social media account were suspended temporarily because of the kind of content he kept churning out. Do you see that as enough, as adequate, appropriate check on the 45th POTUS?
Well, President Trump is a deeply divisive president and a very populist nationalist president who gained the political grounds based on falsifying information and providing alternative news, alternative facts, alternative truth, and every other thing that doesn't really come up to the standard. But by and large, we saw what happened. I think I would commend the social media companies that stood up against one of the formidably strongest presidents and the strongest power in the world. What he did, a right-thinking member of the society, if you really critically look at it, he was wrong. He was wrong at all directions and all cause. Yes, and then we will commend all of them for standing up to what is right.
And it's great commendation.
Those people.
Okay, yes. And very quickly before I let you go, how would you say Trump would be remembered?
Very tricky and great question at the same time. It would be remembered depending on what side of the spectrum that you are. If you're talking to a left-leaning Democratic voter, or a politician, of course, it will go down as a president who really messed up. And also, if you talk to some other conservative Republican who are not to the extreme, they probably won't have too much good recommendations to give the president. Don't forget, this is the president that on his watch he lost the senatorial power. He lost the majority of the members of the House of Representatives. He lost second term in office, and he lost at so many fronts. All of the accusations and counter accusations that he had that the election was rigged, and he went to the Supreme Court, which, by the way, he chose those people sitting, the judges at the Supreme Court. He chose all of them, practically handpicked them because of this election. But eventually, like I said, the mechanics of democracy eventually worked, and we see that outside of the chaos and the troubles, eventually democracy was still intact.
It's a good way to
Nothing
end
has
the
really changed.
conversation. Global Affairs Analyst Kunle Falowo, thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. Please stay safe.
All right, you too.